This question of minor blunt abdominal trauma, especially in children, is a very intriguing field for contrast enhanced ultrasound. This is a population that is, in my experience at least, increasing rapidly in our CT scanners, and 90% of them are negative. So the question is, can we avoid exposing this young and healthy population to radiation and iodine contrast by CT? To start with, why would we use contrast enhancement at all in trauma? It's because and after adding some contrast, you actually see that there is a laceration in the spleen. We began exploiting this actually rather aggressively in Sweden in 2003 when we got the CPS system, because we felt that we didn't want to. So this was our first case that we had, that we primarily did the ultrasound on. It's a 10-year-old boy. He fell in the playground from one of those swings, and he had some pain here on his right side. We look at the B image, and we can appreciate that there is maybe something going on here. After contrast enhancement, it's very easy to see that there is a laceration in this liver. And with this mixed mode, it's also easy to see that it's gray. It's not actually liquid. It's the hematoma. And this is a longitudinal view of the same. And this is the intercostal view from the same area. Now we can see here that there is no subcapsular hematoma. There was no free blood in the abdomen. And in about 40% of cases where you do have laceration. Now we had to prove that we thought that we knew what we were doing, so there was also CT. This is extremely bright. Well, I can't do much about that, I guess. If you look away from the fact that it's a little bright, we can see that it corresponds very well to our contrast-enhanced ultrasound. This was very encouraging for us, of course. So after that, we got an agreement with our surgeons that in the daytime, when we were senior sonologists available, if we had a person with obvious minor abdominal trauma, people who were walking in, had some pain, we started with an ultrasound. And as time went along, we didn't confirm them with CT anymore. This is an 11-year-old girl who fell from the bicycle. But after contrast enhancement, we can see a rather big laceration that goes down, or at least close to the pilus. And in the longitudinal view, we see it again. And as time went by, our surgeons were perfectly happy with this in people who were otherwise stable and they didn't deteriorate in any way. So we didn't. There's a tough little guy who was at a skateboard competition, and he ran into a fence. And his mother thought he was beginning to skate a little funny in a bent forward position, but he just wanted to win over his friends. But his mother took him to the hospital, and we saw him there, looked at the liver. But we do have a laceration up here. That's very obvious. All the way to the portal vein. Again, not very wide, but it has a large extent, no subcapsular. And also the longitudinal view, the same thing. And here it comes from another position. And we have grown confident that you actually see trauma in quite great detail with contrast-enhanced ultrasound. It can also be used in cases of multi-trauma when CT is not sufficient for some reason. Of course, we don't use it primarily in multi-traumatized motorcycle accidents and that kind of thing. But we have a patient here who is unidentified. He has a big cast on his right arm, throwing all these artifacts on the image. We have something here. And of course, it's suspicious of being a laceration in the liver, but you can't really say on these images what is going on. It might as well be a tumor. We don't know anything about this patient. And actually, I guess some of you have seen trauma images looking like this from CT because they can't get the arms and the casts and the cables out of the way. So we bring our Sequoia to the ER, see something here, points us in the direction of that there is something going on. It might be a laceration, but otherwise we don't see very much. Coming here, we again see this very typical laceration, the serrated, very sharply demarcated laceration in the liver parenchyma. And now it doesn't look like a tumor or anything else anymore. It's actually quite. We can follow it down even to the gallbladder. Here, down to the gallbladder area. So it's actually a little bit larger than we would think from the CT scanning. This is a person who had a biopsy and got some pain actually the day after. We can see here that there is a hematoma. It's so much clearer if we get some sonoview in. We see the extent of the hematoma. We also see the hole in the liver, where it comes from. And this way I feel that we can monitor this patient much better later on if they need it. So the summary of our experience in Linköping is that we use it as the first modality for the spleen, liver, and kidneys in cooperable patients when there is skilled staff at hand. And the take-home message from this is that unenhanced ultrasound has absolutely no place in modern imaging of parenchymal trauma. These are our suggestions for dosage in adults. As we have such a very strong signal, we never give more than 0.6 milliliters of sonoview for the spleen and the kidneys, because you get a glare that kind of covers over some of the very small lacerations, especially in the kidneys. Well, the next line here is supposed to say that in children, you take the age of the child and divide it by 10. And that's our dose in milliliters for the liver. And we take half that for the spleen and the kidneys. So a 7-year-old would get 0.7 milliliters for the liver. And in our experience, it's a well-balanced dose that works quite well. Thank you for your attention.